Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Mike or Bash, and we have Brutes here, right?
Hey,
Yeah,
yeah. How's it going? It's good
good.
to see you.
We were just talking, we are just talking before we started about the new overlay that we have for the chat today. Specifically, we have this cool background running, and do you go by Brutes, or do you have another name you want to go by?
Sure. Um, Nathan or Bruce, Brutus, whatever.
Cool.
Just depends on who it is and how I know them. But
So,
yeah, any of them work.
So I'll call you Nathan for
Sure,
today, or maybe I'll call you Brutes if I want to. You try
that
and stop
works.
me. But
Let's do it,
yeah,
Bash.
so the background that we have, I'm looking at it right now. I actually stole this from one of SAINTCON talks. It was SAINTCON 2015 from two people who talked. It was Scott Harpster and Josh Klein, I think his last name. But you were
Either
out.
of them.
Yeah, I don't really recognize them. Maybe that's my bad. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Whatever. But what do you think is going on in that background? Like you were looking at it before, you're looking at it now.
I actually cannot see it now. But I assumed it was like a rancid dump specifically for archiving iOS backups for Cisco gear or
So
something similar.
you
But
were
I only saw it for 2 seconds.
you were right on par. The title of the talk that I stole it from was called Rancid Pi. He called it version control for your device configurations using a Raspberry Pi. So you hit that just perfect, which is pretty
Sweet.
crazy to do just from like a 20-second terminal.
Yeah, I mean, I think rant is pretty well known, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've never heard of it, if I'm being honest.
One second.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, it died.
Okay, let me.
So I busted out headphones after not having anything since I've been, locked up since March. So this is, I think, the first time I've even pulled them out. All right, I think we're good.
Cool. All right. Yes, those are the headphones. I had the same problem with those ones. You have to hit one of the volume buttons every once in a while, at least with mine, before so they wouldn't turn off.
Really.
You don't
So I
ask
mean,
me
it just
why.
reconnected. I don't remember that issue before, but like I said, it's been 6 months since I've even used it. But yeah, Ransom's pretty well known. I think anybody who's been like on the network engineering side of things, as far as like archiving configs, has probably used it. I think. I don't
I guess not me. I guess I get to learn about that. That's cool. I'm gonna have to write that down on my notes to learn and figure out. Rancid. I just thought it looked like a cool background. Because so what I'm doing, just to explain it, is Pope is doing all these super cool videos, right? And he asked me to be on one. I thought it was really fun, super valuable. Um, so I decided to do an underground version of it and
That's
do my
good.
own videos.
That's the best kind. You're doing your own B-sides
Yeah,
interviews.
it's the B-sides interviews, the underground of the to that corner of the hallway where you go where you like talk about stuff that you don't want your employers to hear, and that's kind of what I want this to be. I mean, do take note that this is be on YouTube, but this is the SAINTCON Hallway Underground. So we can talk about cool stuff and not go through a boring interview style.
I like it.
So
Let's do it.
I mean, I was wondering if there's any cool topics that you've been exploring recently, something you've been doing that might be worth chatting about. Is there anything that you've thought was cool? Any projects you've done?
I haven't been doing a huge amount of projects lately. I've been brainstorming on some things to research. One of those things specifically that I'm still kind of coming up with the content for and ideas is using companies OPSEC as an attack vector, as far as mapping out like the way that specific security teams do things and coming up with a framework for understanding, creating, documenting those things, and then just tying those to holes and weaknesses or vulnerabilities or anything else.
So you're saying like
So
digging into the company's blue team and using their blue team information to basically kill them.
Yeah, yeah. Whether it's their Intel program with how they ingest things to their specific sandboxes and then add and distribute that information, or their actual monitoring systems, which have maybe, don't sanitize things how they should be, or even things like um, like putting specific informations that would show up as looking malicious in their logs to a point to where they will look at that, to be able to collect information on them. So
Hmm. So something like
I've been
throwing red herrings just to make them distracted while you're doing your other nefarious stuff.
Well, that and just really looking at their OPSEC as an attack vector, which I think like anybody who's on security teams that they get big enough, everybody gets a little divided on what they're working on and maybe don't talk as well back and forth as they should, and that people make mistakes all the time with this type of stuff.
So
So
like
if you have,
I can
go ahead.
imagine a big company having the team that does like IT or does device configuration for people's laptops not meshing well with like your security monitoring system, and there being bugs there, like machines not getting deployed or
Yeah. Yeah, with them not getting deployed and then just the way that they're going to do research on attacks. So like if you create traffic that's attacking a specific company or whatever the target is, it doesn't really matter. Just enough to get their information to have them looking. And then you start just kind of tracking how they're responding to that
hmm.
and looking at it and trying to use that against them in a few different ways. It's still very, very like it needs a lot of work, but it is something that I've kind of been like breaking out notes for, as far as it's more about creating a framework on how you would do it and how you would map those controls and responses back to ways to get other information out of them.
So
Um,
for people
so
who don't know you, is this typical like Nathan Brutes type of thing to do, or is this like a new venture for
um,
you?
I mean, I don't know. I've worked on I I I've worked on quite a few things. I do network engineering, um, and some attacking stuff here and there. I've done other projects and talks with like just people in the community as far as tool development and kind of released those things. This specific is a little bit different because most of my stuff is blue team. A lot of it's monitoring response, orchestration type work, IR, like all that type of stuff. So a lot of it is mapping out things that I've had experience over the years on, and realizing that like I do have, I'm sure all of us do, but I specifically, I'm sure have weaknesses and holes in the way that I do things, where it's either inconsistent or it's not always as clean as it should be. So I guess I'm under the assumption that everybody probably has those holes. So yeah, that's all it
I
is.
mean, from a good that's a good view to come from to attack the. I mean, you said you've been in blue team for ages. I mean, why not use that information to figure out how to use your blue team skills to break things, right?
Yeah, yeah, just yeah, looking for holes. So yeah, I've been doing that, but a lot of that is just more idea brainstorming and kind of talking with a few people about that, but not a lot yet. It may be something for next year.
So I know something you and I were
Uh,
talking about a bit earlier was spinning up like
yeah.
that OPSEC or that red team infrastructure. Do you have any cool suggestions like how to do it better? Because I know
How
right
to do
now,
red team infrastructure better?
yeah, right now I'm kind of tasked with doing some of that at work,
Well,
and I'm going to do the best that I can, but I've never done this before. How do I not get
so,
caught?
well, some of the best, I'm like looking for it right now. There's some really, really good documentation on red team infrastructure that's tied back to what is his name? Oh my gosh. We should have planned this out, Bash.
It's not
Um,
how this works.
um,
It's not how the
his,
underground works. We just go for it.
uh, shoot. The C2 infrastructure that is tied specifically to, it's more Windows specific for the implants, deployment, and command and
So like
control. Like,
Metasploit.
what is
Oh, we lost you again.
it like?
Okay. So do you mean like
It's back. Sorry.
do you mean like Metasploit
What
or
is it?
or or that the Armitage
Oh, what's the
thing.
one that cost? No, it's not the one that it cost a ton. What is the name of that? It's oh my gosh. We should get Bryce on here. He'll remember off the top of his head.
Speaking of
Um,
Bryce, I was watching his hallway con earlier today. I thought he did a very good job.
oh really? I haven't actually watched it yet. I'll have to look that up after.
Yeah, he gave the
Um,
story about where his handle came from, the tweet fox stuff. I thought that was pretty funny.
really, where did it come from? I mean,
Okay,
I can watch it too,
I
but
mean, I'm not gonna spoil it, but it almost sounded like a name you wouldn't want to be given at first, and then it gets stuck with you.
I will watch it. Maybe I'll just ask Bryce really quick. So, Silent Break actually has some good documents specifically on modern red team infrastructure that they did a couple years ago. For anybody that's in the area, Brady is a Utah guy too, and Silent Break is ran specifically out of Utah.
So
So
Brady,
they he had some.
I don't know who
Do you
Brady
know
is.
Brady?
Does he have a handle that I
Brady.
could look up or?
I mean, he's the CEO of Silent Break Security.
Okay,
Um, I don't know if he goes by a handle or not. A lot of his stuff is pretty professional at this point. But here, let me. Can we share links? Will it show up? Can we do this somehow? I don't even know.
I mean, I could totally make this happen. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. And while I'm going to put this in a different note while I look for that other document really
Okay,
quick.
so we're
One
gonna
second.
we're gonna edit this in in prod and see how this works out.
Do a live.
Okay, so
Um,
um, if you'll just send that to me in Discord, I'll be able to show that link to everybody.
sure, that's the one I was thinking of. And there's one other one that it's a few years old, but it goes through a lot of. Oh, that's here it is. So, Cobalt Strike, the guy behind Cobalt Strike, um, Raphael Mudge does a very, very, very good red team ops um, walkthrough. He has a blog post specifically, and he has a lot of a YouTube. It's like a 9 series YouTube thing where it's a lot of content, but
Okay, I just got the link
it's very
put
good
right
too.
down there, so you can look at it if you want to.
Oh, sweet. All right. There's the actual red team operations. So a lot of this isn't just using Cobalt Strike, but a lot of it's specifically around the operations infrastructure C2, like domain fronting, hiding the actual infrastructure, how you would be able to rotate that through that quickly, and everything else. Let me find the blog post too, because I think that's what I wish. And it is a little bit dated now, but it's still super good. So those are the two things that I would read through as far as this general ideas on the red team infrastructure and kind of the best operations
Okay,
ideas around that.
it sucked to type this, but there's the YouTube link.
Oh, are you? Is that for the recording?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, if we just throw it on YouTube or Twitter or something, I'm sure we can just throw the links into.
Yeah,
I
I'll
don't know.
just put
We'll
them in
figure it
the
out.
YouTube description. That'll work great. See if people can click on them. But yeah, I don't know. So what I was looking at was like doing some fancy stuff with like putting everything behind a VPN so that you can only access your infrastructure behind a VPN, like all your documentation and stuff. I'm trying to put behind that, and then make it so that you can pivot your main box through some of your other infrastructure. We're looking at WireGuard. I like WireGuard a lot personally, but I don't think it really matters what you use.
Yeah, I'm usually good either way. With those type of things in the past, I've just used OpenVPN specifically because it's easy to
Yep.
generate the configs, distribute those, keep them on VMs, and all communications from that specific VM is forced through that tunnel. And I mean that's what I like, but I think WireGuard and everything else, it's the exact the same logical workflow is almost yeah, it's there.
Did you ever learn about WireGuard beforehand? Like, is that
No,
something you've heard of before? It is something
I've heard of WireGuard. Yeah.
I have. So I've been using WireGuard personally for like it feels like 2 years now, but I love it, and I think it honestly it should replace OpenVPN, IPsec, everything. It's just so much faster and so much less resource heavy. I've been really, really, really excited about it.
I mean, I remember when it first came out and I looked at it, but
hmm
it wasn't something I put a huge amount of effort into. So, I mean,
So the
how is
idea
it
is
different than a normal VPN? Like I'm looking at the documentation now and it
well,
doesn't look
so
too
the
good.
idea, so here's what's so special about it. I mean, they tout some things, particularly low amount of source, like they have a very small code base, enough that it makes it really easy to audit, unlike their competitors, which have, almost 200,000 lines, and OpenVPN sits under 4, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's really easy to do code audit. The other thing is at least for me, this is my biggest thing. Um, it when I load it on my phone, the amount of battery usage that I get is probably a quarter through the VPN than what I had with OpenVPN. Like it just for some reason, and I haven't read about why, but it uses a lot less battery life. And it's probably because it's significantly less CPU intensive. Like you can get so I put it on one of my home routers. We actually have it running at the hackerspace right now on the Ubiquity USG squares that they have, and I can
Oh,
get
really?
yeah I can get speeds up to like 200 or 300 megabytes a second. Where when I was using
On a USG?
on a USG and on the USG
Really?
when I used OpenVPN, I could hit maybe 50.
That's pretty good.
I was like
Um, those
really
USGs are not
impressed.
powerful at all.
No,
So that's not bad at all.
I was really impressed with
Um,
its low power, like how fast it was able to
yeah.
do. And everyone seems to say it's cryptographically secure.
I'm looking. So I do remember, like I think it was 2018 on Black Hat. I saw when they first started giving the presentations to more of the security world, and I think I tried to set it up then, but or did set it up. I just never brought it into like my daily life.
I will
I'll have to
say
look at it
it
closer.
was more complicated to set up than other solutions. Thought that was pretty interesting.
Really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. So yeah, I mean, as long as you're,
a side tangent. Sorry.
I feel funny that we're actually talking about that right now, but the yeah for attack infrastructure and everything else around it as far as getting that to a location where not a lot of information's escaping before you get it to there for either grabbing information or looking for other stuff or whatever you're doing as long as it's a VPN. I'm not a huge fan of forcing it through like SSH tunnels just because of information escaping through different scans and things like that. And it's hard to get everything that you want through that tunnel.
Right.
But VPNs in general, I think are good.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. Especially if you can do a VPN at like the router level, because then everything your machine is doing ends up through that VPN. Like there's no leakage at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
um,
that'll be cool.
I had some more questions for you. Um, I
Sure.
I loved this question. I'm not going to ask everyone it, but I want to ask you because I've been curious about it for a while. Like
Hmm.
where does the name Brutes come from? Because I'm going to be honest, like that handle, it just sounds to me like a pro wrestler, and I'm trying
It
to like
comes from my wrestling career. No, no, there's two sides of it. So part of it's just my name. So like something came up and I like had like my full name right out, and it's basically just one part of my middle name and then part of my last name.
oh
That's it.
okay. It's kind
That's actually where it came from. The other part is
Did it come from elementary
um,
school where they do those funny naming schemes?
it was actually something like that to where they like it was tied together and then it just kind of stuck. But then the other part of it, so I started using it, and then Brutus was the main guy who assassinated Julius Caesar, and then
Oh,
he died like a week later or something. So um, I like the symbolic side of killing off the leader for whatever reason, not dying a week later like he did. But those two things combination. Stupid headphones.
Yeah, just like I
Maybe,
said,
maybe
just tap that volume button every like few minutes, and it'll stop that. Ugh, I had the same problem.
I
So
think it might be. I have like 6 devices trying to connect to it, and anyway. So yeah, that's where it comes from.
that's really actually pretty cool. That's super interesting. You're not into like destroying the establishment or anything, right?
No, 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 no. When I am going to destroy my headphones, so 1 second. I'm like killing Bluetooth on the rest of these devices because I think everything else keeps trying to connect to it, to the headphone. All right. Hopefully that'll like keep everything from trying to get to it.
And we can trim some of
Um,
those sections out. That's not a problem.
okay, good. Thanks, Bash.
You're welcome. So that's pretty cool. I'm super glad to finally know where that came from. Now you have the same last name of somebody else that was interviewed. And we had Jimmy Longs. Now I know the answer, but everybody else might know. Are you related?
I do. Yeah, yeah. So I assume almost everybody in Utah knows, but maybe I'm wrong. So yeah, no, Jimmy Longs is my brother.
So how did it
We
happen that two brothers ended up in not only the same field, but right now, if I understand right, you guys work at the same company. I know that because I work with you, but
Yeah, yeah. Being on the same team, that's a very good, good guess. Um, it it goes. I didn't actually plan on thinking about dates on this, but no, I think probably about 92 or so. Lonnie brought home some 2600s. So Jimmy Longs,
yeah.
and and his honestly, he was already lock picking at that time too. So he was making locks or his picks and everything else, and then he brought home um, some 2600s and some other like early hacking books. I don't remember specifically what it was. And I remember like I wasn't supposed to touch him because I was like the younger brother or something like that. So that means I touched him, and
Of course you
took
did.
them, and I immediately took information out of like a lot of it was basically on old Windows stuff for hiding directory structures and like hiding like binaries with how things were running and stuff like that. And I would get in trouble for installing too many games like on the family computer, even though we had like all our own computers too. So I like
Right.
hid everything. Um, and it was all from these old like hacking books. So this was like the first thing that I got from just taking from Jimmy Long's. And I remember my dad like or our dad like coming on. He was like super frustrated because he was like trying to figure out why there wasn't any space on the computers and like everything was gone, but it didn't look like anything was there. And I was in the back thinking, oh shit, like this
He's
isn't
gonna
good.
catch
Like
me.
I'm totally gonna get busted. And then Lonnie walks in and just starts laughing and he's like Nathan did it. He's hiding everything. Or I think he totally ratted me out. Anyway, it kind of just came from there. After that, we always had 2600s around. Like it was one of those things that our parents or our dad anyway totally encouraged. We tried to go to about the second DEF CON in Vegas. I think I was 16 or so, and Lonnie was probably 18, something like that. And we had everything set up. We were like super excited about it. And it got shut. Like our parents were finally like, wait, what are you guys doing? You're going to drive to Vegas and, go hang out with all these people? And we're like, yeah, so this is a great idea. So
They did it once before. It
anyway,
was okay.
yeah, it may have been the third year. I don't remember. Whatever, 96, 95, something like that was. Um, so we did not go that year. I think we started going in 2000, 2001 or something like that, and I think we've been pretty much going ever since. And it's just part of the you know part of the yearly um,
Tradition.
commute, whatever tradition. There we go.
That's really
So
cool.
yeah,
That's really cool. So you've both been into it since basically before I could walk.
yeah, yeah. So we we set up networks probably at about that same time, probably
That's
when I was about
cool.
like 14 or so.
So
We got in trouble for drilling holes through the walls for all the cabling.
okay, okay. I
And
I have done that exact same thing, drilled holes through cabling and gotten in huge trouble for it. But I almost feel like
Yep.
that should be a rite of passage,
Yeah. I mean, we had to run it somehow. We didn't want to run it through the whole house.
right?
Yeah, I think we not too many years after that is when we both started getting into Linux and Unix. So I had old Sun boxes. I had like old Red Hat boxes, and a lot of it was just because it was fun, because it was neat, and then obviously that was tied directly kind of to security in general around that. So just exploring, whatever aspects, whether it was just you know, cheating in Diablo as far as using old debuggers to specifically copy items to, whatever, discovering what's actually sitting on the network. A lot of the information then came from BBSs, so we dial into old BBSs and download whatever text files we could and reproduce things when we couldn't just buy them at the store. So
So
yeah,
what
that
was
came from.
your personal favorite memory of being, let's say, like before, like let's say either before or during your first DEF CON, like your first hacker memory that you, or techie memory or something that you really liked a lot. You don't. It doesn't actually have to be favorite. Just pick
That's
something you
tough,
want to
man.
talk about.
Pick something.
Yeah.
I don't. We already talked about maybe talking about this. So talking about when DC801 kind of took back off and started
Okay.
gaining
So
momentum.
you should tell me all about that because I only started going to DC 801 in 801 Labs. Let me look. I would say 2017. So 3 or 4 years ago. So I don't even know
Yeah.
much about that early history and what it was like and who was there and
Who is it? But in the olden days, Bash.
the gay band.
No.
In computers, anything 8 years or older is pretty old.
It's probably 8 years or older. So there was always a group of us who, like I said, started going about 2001, 2002 to DEF CON and who were already working in security, whether it was, whatever way it was, whether it was just straight Linux or, networking gear. And
Hmm.
there was a small scene, but it wasn't very well organized. Nobody really knew each other. A lot of it was just all online. Um, and the people that we would go to and kind of we'd all caravan down to Vegas and share like two hotel rooms with like 20 of us or something like that was just people that we knew and worked with. As we kind of got farther along into careers and it became more, sponsored by our employers and stuff like that, it got a little bit easier. But with DC801 specifically, everything had been dead for years and years and years. They used to meet at like ZCMI with the 2600 groups and stuff like that, and nothing really. I don't remember anything happening for probably 10 or 15 years. Somebody may chime in and remember something I don't, but from my perspective, there wasn't much.
I, I
We
I
were at one of the.
I am trying to get
Go
some of the
ahead.
older people to kind of give me some more specific stories, but we'll see if that actually happens or not. It's hard to get people all in a chat together. Anyways, so
Um,
watch for
I
that.
mean, Grifter's going to have a good idea. He'll remember a lot, but there's a few people older than Grifter, obviously,
Yeah,
too,
and there's people
that
that were
that may
doing it
have.
before even Grifter and like from my understanding, Sobit and a few others that worked really hard before Grifter came around too. So
Well, I mean, Grifter was doing the DEF CON stuff before the DC801 things came, but even before he was doing that, there was stuff around. But
yeah.
anyway, talking about Sobit, so it was at one of the parties at DEF CON where we were. A few of us were talking to this random guy who was completely hammered. He was out of it, but he was wearing a BYU shirt. And
A BYU shirt. You don't get BYU shirts. You don't get BYU shirts at DEF CON very often.
no, no, no. And he was wearing it ironically, just because it was funny. So he was not from Utah. He had nothing to do from Utah. He worked for like a pen test firm out of San Antonio. I think
Hmm.
I had just moved from San Antonio at the time back to Utah, so I knew him through that. I don't even remember his name, but it was either exploit development or just specifically tied to pen testing. Anyway, Sobit and Metacortex walked by, and saw his shirt, and they're like, and then basically said, "Are you from Utah?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Why would I be from Utah?"
Yeah, this shirt has nothing
Because
to do
he,
with it.
yeah, he, I don't think he would probably remember it. But myself and maybe Jimmy Long, I don't remember who was there. This was probably 2012. Um, I was like, "There's no DC-801." I'm like, "DC-801's dead." I'm like, "It's never, it's not a thing." And then I remember arguing with, not arguing, but this was just randomly yelling about, something at a party that I didn't think had ever been a thing. So yeah, Meta and Sobit are kind of who I ran into there, and they're like, "Yeah, come out. This is what we're doing. We're starting it back out." I think that's what they said specifically them, that they were restarting it.
Yep.
It had just been like a week or two or something like that, and this was the first time that they're trying to like connect to people. So they actually had a space that was, it's not the space that they're everything's at now, is the one over kind of closer to Trolley Square.
So is this the one that was
um
by Trader Joe's?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just yeah, not too far from there. Super super tiny one room little thing, in a basement under like a dentist or something like that, if I remember right. um so yeah, I mean that's where a lot of the stuff kind of like kicked off as far as DC-801. Some of the like Utah Sec and all of that type of stuff was already going from like maybe Justin Cyril and different people like that. But DC-801 specifically, that's when I remember it restarting. So 2012, 2013, I can't remember.
That's pretty cool. Your first introduction with hackerspace was somebody yelling at you at DEF CON. Sounds about right.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And I wasn't wearing a BYU shirt. It was a random guy that I knew through, other jobs in past lives. Um, so yep. Yep. That's where I first met Meta. That's where I met, and Sobit. I think he had a different handle, at the time. It was like Donkey Cart or something like that. Um, somebody should, I don't know, I can't remember, but yeah, yeah, that's where it came from. And then I
Wow.
kind of started hanging out with them a little bit from there. I think they did a few things down at the college that Sobit used to work at, but most of it ended up being up at the space.
So, I mean, so things are different a bit now. Like, obviously, the hackerspace. I mean, it's a whole different crew, a whole different people. Do you still talk to people that you met back then and this like got those associationships with, and do you talk to anyone that you were involved with at the hackerspace, or is that kind of like
Yeah,
not
I
happening
mean,
very often?
in my head, it's people like obviously Sobit, Meta. I only see Meta like at DEF CON nowadays. Although he doesn't live that far from here. Um, Obviously Nemus is still around, like he was around back then.
Right.
Same as like Sobit probably was, or not Sobit. Nibble probably was around then, as far as like being an early guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like Demos and Dumby showed up a couple years later. If I remember right. And I still hear from some of those guys, but a lot of it's just kind of the more local crew. Like I get down to 801 Labs, but not super often. You obviously know that, two or three times a year, whether I need it or not.
It's an
Um,
important thing to go and like breathe a little bit, but at the same time, there's no shame in not going. It doesn't matter, especially now that everything's online. Like it's it's different. It sure is different, and it's super cool, and it's fun to hear about what it was like back then, and how it's grown and how it's different, and like we actually have a space that's got more than one little room, and because if we had one little room, we'd be so crowded it would be impossible. That's cool.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't work in that location now.
No.
It's just the amount of people that show up and lockpick nights, and there were some lockpick nights back then too, but a lot of it was just small classroom settings, and that's about it. And yeah,
speaking of
it very much changed.
Speaking of lockpick night, I know I saw you at we just started a new tool chapter here in Utah, and I saw you at lockpick night, for the tool chapter. What'd you think? You big into locks like your brother, or I mean, I don't think
No,
anyone's like Lonnie.
no, no. I do not commit a lot of my time and resources towards locking, yeah, cutting locks up and creating picks. No, I do like lock picking. I think it's fun. But I am definitely more on the amateur level, and you know, I'll do it while watching TV or something like
You
that. But
and
I do,
me
yeah.
both. Like I am not good at it, and I try to be, and I'm just not there. But it is kind of a fun thing to fiddle with your hands when you're bored.
I am excited actually about the tool chapter though. I've went to the some of the conferences specifically for the lock stuff, like in Seattle, and the fact that the tool is trying to expand and like make all of these resources available to other locations
Hmm.
and really build it up, I think is awesome. So I'm glad that Jimmy Longs is the one that's pushing that and kind of helping the community to understand what's available.
Me too.
Just glad it's not me too.
I'm just excited because I want to learn to crack a safe because that's like
Oh
pretty
my
like
gosh,
pro
I
spy
don't.
level.
So like I went through parts of it and read on it, and I was there like during the competitions
Hmm.
of like everybody that was doing it, and I almost tried it. I was like, maybe I'll. Anyway, this was like it. What it looks like, the safe cracking specifically is um, a bunch of people in like a super hard test with migraines. Like that's what it looks like for all of these guys. They all have their heads down. They're all like super pissed off. They're all like have their worksheets as they go through everything.
So
Um,
I gotta
that one does not.
I gotta share some. So I've got to learn how to do it on paper, but my eventual goal is to hook a microcontroller up to it and do all the worksheets for me.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. And
I don't
I
think
think there's a few
anyone's
people talking about projects for that.
yeah,
They're
I don't think anyone's done it. I've seen a few where they like I watched a talk where they'll basically brute force it and do different tricks to try and make the brute force as little as possible, but none of them that do the actual manipulation and the math and the worksheets. And I'm just like, it would be super cool to not have to do any of that and just have a little microcontroller tell me what to do instead.
I mean, you'd need some major sensors to kind of
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
the
just
like the
accelerometer
small
and
adjustments.
yep.
So Lonnie's totally has been working on that for a couple of years. Have you already talked to him about it?
Yeah, that's why I'm so excited because he told me about it. I'm
You,
like, this is super. It doesn't seem hard to do. Just you got to spend the time and do it.
I think the app integration will be a little bit of a pain, and then just kind of more tuning around false positives for some of those sensors,
Uh huh.
because it feels like something that like I don't know. There's going to have to be some experimentation on the type of sensors that you're going to use and like whether they'll actually work, whether it's going to work with the different types of safes. Almost having these different routines and workflows for each of the different safe types. But I that sounds way better than doing it
Yeah.
like manually because like I said, super hard test with a migraine. That's what that part reminded me of.
I'm hoping that we can go and build a device that makes it so that we're no longer allowed to use the device anymore because it makes it too easy.
I Part of me just assumes it's already out there. I mean, just
so
not
so from
like publicly accessible.
exactly. So what I've seen and what I talked with Lonnie is that there are government agencies that have built these devices. They're just not available to the public, right? And and if they are, they're available to locksmiths only, and they're extremely, extremely expensive.
Well, you've seen the actual like brute forcer machines
Hmm.
that they hook up and it just goes through. Like they had them at ShmooCon just running in the
Yeah,
background this last year. I think the lockpicking lawyer brought it and he just had it kind of running and just it took forever. But yeah, the fact that they do create those and if they just put almost like a feedback loop specifically on there to understand those changes, it's we're not all geniuses or anything like that, right? So
right.
thinking that the government or some other teams or security companies specifically around physical sites haven't done that, I don't know.
No,
It seems silly.
they've
I
definitely
do.
done it. They're just not sharing it.
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
That seems more correct.
Okay, so let's move on to another topic. This is one of my favorite questions to ask people because it always puts them off guard.
Oh, good.
Yep. What is something that nobody knows about you, but you think is super cool? Something you do, something you like, something that is just happened to you.
That's a terrible question, Bash.
I know it always
Um,
puts them off guard.
don't know, man. I'm an open book. Um,
And by nobody, I mean like nobody in the general community would know this offhand. Just either you don't normally share it, or you just haven't like who would care about it, you know?
yeah. Um, I don't know. So I mean, a lot of the stuff we've already talked about is just how I got into it. I doubt like people knew that type of
Okay,
stuff because
well,
it's not like I've never shared that type of stuff.
let me ask you a different question then.
All right, good.
What do you do in your free time when you're not working?
When I'm not working,
When you're not working,
right now it's family stuff. I have kids, so I play guitar with my kids,
so
or
you play
play
guitar.
outside and go.
Nathan
hmm
plays guitar. How long have you played guitar for?
Um, Probably 5 or 6 years, not a long time. So that actually went back to I played World of Warcraft, which is obviously a terrible decision. But one day,
I avoided
a
that
couple of
one.
years into it, well, good. Like, yeah. So I played it for several years and was doing way too much raiding and stuff like that. And type slash played, and it said some. I don't remember what it said, but it was like 300 days or some insane number. And it kind of freaked me out, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, did I really spend that much time on this stupid game?" So I canceled my account then, and I ordered a guitar that night. And I never restarted it. And then I started playing guitar ever since. So since that time, my kids have gotten older and into it, so they play, and they're honestly probably getting better than I am at this point. But yeah, it's fun. Would sit around the house and like actually kind of just play and kind of jam. It's good.
So you're saying that next time somebody needs a theme song, that we're gonna get you to come play guitar for us.
As long as I get to do lyrics too, I'm in.
Okay,
Let's do this.
okay, we should definitely do this. In fact, if you want to go get it right now, no, I'm kidding.
I,
um,
well, repeat that one more time. I lost you for two
so if you want
seconds.
to go get your guitar right now, we could start that. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that.
All right, I'm gonna no, I'm just okay. No, I'm not playing guitar on this. It's just around the corner, but yeah.
So that's really cool. Um, I did want. Let's see, we're hitting at about 42 minutes. So
Are we doing for shooting for an hour? I
we
have
are
no idea.
shooting for whatever we feel like, but probably an hour is a good cutoff point.
That's good. So those same kids, my older boys anyway, I did bring to DEF CON last year since you were actually helping with the DEF CON kids and everything around that.
Okay, I'm actually really curious about that. Like, so for those that don't know, DEF CON has their roots section, right? And I mean, as a someone who went to Roots, what was it like for you? So I know that I volunteer in a certain section. I've done that for the last 2 years, 3 years at DEF CON. But
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
as a parent of kids that have gone, like what is Roots?
Well, so I mean, obviously, it's a kind of just a protected environment where they're still exposed to a lot of the kind of the security atmosphere in the scene,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the people who have been driving huge amounts of DEF CON for years are doing that now, just because I think we're all getting older and all have kids, and we kind of want them, if they're expressing that interest, to experience some of the same things that we do, but maybe not
Right.
not the full DEF CON experience.
Oh, come on.
Um,
You're not gonna have your kids shave their heads,
uh,
right?
I totally would if they wanted to. No, that's fine. So if they want mohawks, that's part of. I would be fine with that.
So have you
Um,
ever done the mohawk?
yeah, have you not seen those pictures?
No. Okay.
They're good. I will have to send it to you. Yeah, I think I've done it a couple times. Um, but the roots specifically, I think so. I know Dan, like Daggett, and those guys, and people who were involved with it for a few different years, or some of the CTFs around it. I think he did Neverland, and they
Yep.
used that.
Yep.
Um, and I think that's where I first started hearing about it. Maybe even before I heard about it from you. Um, so DEF CON had been, and Black Hat and just Vegas in general, obviously had just been, my thing that I kind of hid from the family. I didn't hide. I knew what I was doing, where I was going, and everything like that. But I did not bring any family members forever. And that was the last year was the first year they did it. So as somebody, I guess, who's been going a few years
Mm-hmm.
and Um, it parts of it was tough because I did feel like I was missing out on a lot of other like normal DEF CON stuff. I can't sit there and like be doing other CTF work or like meeting with other people or just like catching up with people because I'm with my kids. And it's nice because there are some people in there, but I was actually surprised how many of the parents like with their kids were not part of the security industry or scene or anything like that, which completely surprised me.
right?
So I'm amazed they would randomly bring their kids to a hacker conference and actually
So
like
imagine
foot the
being
bill and everything else.
a parent and you know nothing, very little about computers, and you bring your kid to this DEF CON thing with all that comes around with it, so that they can go to this roots thing, and yeah, that would be
Yeah,
a really interesting experience.
I mean, they seemed happy. Like I think it was a dentist I was talking to, and I was like, really? Like so you're bringing your kids down here like to help with this interest and kind of push this type of thing just to be a supportive parent, which is great. I thought
That's
it was
cool.
amazing, but
That's
it
cool.
just felt like a huge jump in cultures to me. um
Yes.
but I did love it. I enjoyed it, and my kids were very, very sad this year that they weren't able to do it. And we'll plan on doing it in the past, but honestly, in the future, I think I'm gonna have my wife wants to go with them, like into the DEF CON routes, and then I'll
Uh-huh.
just show up here and there while I go do other stuff too. So that's probably kind of selfish, but
So
yeah,
for
I,
other
I
parents out there, would you recommend bringing kids to DEF CON, letting them do roots?
100%. So obviously, it depends on your parenting style and everything else. Like if you want your kids to show up and they worked on electronics, they did lock picking. My kids like lock. They have their own lockpick sets with their handles like engraved on the handles and all that type of stuff because Jimmy
Wait,
Long is their uncle.
so okay, so
Um,
you're saying Jimmy can give me engraved pics. Perfect.
he,
Good to
he
know.
will. I think it's
Uh,
usually a Christmas present. So
ba
tell
basi
him that's what you want for
basically
Christmas.
anyone who's listening, if you want to get an engraved pic set, we're all gonna ask Jimmy. Okay,
I'm
sorry.
sure that'll happen. So no, if that's like what you're into and you're okay with your kids like understanding like security, which I think is important. I think the Roots group did an incredible job of both keeping everything moving, doing great content.
Hmm.
My two boys that I brought, it was 11 and I think 8 last year. It's they're 9 and 12 this year, and both of them have like over the last year have brought up ideas to me for like talks and different things like that where they're like, "Do you think that I would be able to present this if we like did some effort?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like,
That's cool.
"This is this is awesome." Like, part of them was finding like it was small vulnerabilities in like their schools, like content filtering systems and different things like that. And I was like, this is the type of thing that like it's good to report and for your schools to understand. You just need to do it in the proper ways. So a
Right.
lot of it was talk about proper reporting and how to deliver that information and you know, it was something that he wasn't quite ready to do. I think because he wanted to keep abusing it at school is probably why he didn't want to do it. But I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But I think we're getting there to where he'll understand that um, you do learn a lot as you're developing these talks and just kind of understanding I don't know, everything around it, presentation, all that type of stuff. So yeah, for anybody who's actually interested in roots and who has thought about it, I think they did a very, very good job. They tried super hard. They were crazy in a good way about making sure random people weren't just walking in there. Yeah, it's a very, very good experience.
That's really cool. I'm glad. I know that I mean, so I have a little kid, but she's not even 2 yet. So, I hope that it's something like that is still available for me, and I think that's super awesome. I know that I look at a lot of kids in the current public education system who say, "Hey, I want to get into this stuff. I want to get in," and it's just not there for them, you know? It's just, I mean, you can't, a school teacher isn't going to be able to teach information security stuff. It's hard enough for us, right?
Yeah, my oldest is in like middle school and he has like creative coding and different things like that, but it's nothing that's very like in depth at this point or anything. I don't think. they're probably years away from actually being exposed to real insecurity if it ever happens in middle school or high school. Probably not. So
I
yeah,
don't know. In
it's
my
good.
opinion, it's really cool to have a kid go and see other people their age doing this kind of stuff. Like I think that right there
I
is the
agree.
big crux of it. It's not even just doing it, it's seeing other people like you doing it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and actually doing the talks and doing the research and everything else around it. And they watched a huge amount of the videos on YouTube that they had from other years too. And I think they've rewatched those videos over and over. Joe Grand did one specifically about creating I think it was like a little watch thing. Um, and I swear they've watched that like 3 or 4 times just because they think the whole thing is awesome. So it's a good, they do a good job.
All right, that's cool. I wish that you know what? It would be really cool if we could build something simple like that here in like in the Utah community, you know? I mean, I know at SAINTCON they have the family night. Um, did you ever able to attend that at all?
I haven't. So like,
So
I
me
go to
neither. I haven't
St.
done it
Con.
either.
Honestly, Provo's a long ways away. You have to drive way down there.
Vegas,
I
not
mean, so
so
if I'm
much.
already down, it's not different. That's like a destination where Sorry, Provo. Provo's not really just a destination. You're like excited to bring your kids to. That sounds terrible, but yeah. Anyway,
Meh. I mean,
sorry to be away.
the Provo Convention Center's been nice to us, but agreed. There's just not much around there to do outside of the conference.
Yeah, because I'll be there like all day, so that means it's usually family night, right? So it starts at like 5 o'clock or something like
Yep.
that, if I remember right.
Yep.
So that means coming back, getting my kids, driving back down. Figure I don't know. Um, if I try and bring them down for the whole thing, that would be one. I yeah. I don't. Maybe I should.
I know.
Obviously not this year, but
It'd be
another year.
yeah, it'd be kind of cool if we could set something up where like maybe once a month or once every other month we got a bunch of people with their kids who are interested in Utah together to do say a mini routes type of a thing and just choose like this month we're going to do a small CTF, next month we're going to do a talk or two, you know.
Yeah, yeah. My with my experience so far, they love like easy lock picking. They love easy electronic work, like because they do enjoy soldering and things like that. And easy CTFs, they're huge fans of the CTFs, and it's just like simple like ROT13 type stuff, and understanding base 64 and how you would actually grab those strings and decode it and stuff. It's nothing intense or hard. Um, and maybe even like super basic Python type development and tying that into there's some books specifically around Python like SDKs with like the Minecraft APIs and different things
Hmm,
like that.
that'd be really
Um,
cool.
some of those things, and especially if you make it like fun stuff like you know auto building a trap for somebody or some I don't know. Whenever I play with them, like all I do is hide dynamite and switches all over the place. So
And
if we
buttons
could come
and
up
plates and yeah.
Yeah, it drives them crazy. But it would be fun if they could do it to other people and automate that. But yeah,
You
I,
know,
I
I
think
think I
I
think
think
we should
kids
do
would
that.
enjoy that.
If if we were to start something like that, do you think you would be interested in bringing your kids doing it online right now and just be like, okay, we're gonna
Yeah,
do an online thing. Everybody hops in Discord and we're just gonna hang out and do some cool stuff
yeah,
with kids only or the kids and their parents. You know?
yeah. 100. My kids are on Discord right now. I'm like looking over and it's like on there. Um, so no, I think they would love it. It's just trying to figure out how
What to
to
do?
probably keep their attention or maybe making it short enough with some information that they could look up and continue with if they wanted. But they're in Zoom calls like all day right now. Well, when they're not actually at school. So maybe kids are just getting more and more used to it too.
Hmm,
I don't know.
that'd be cool. I don't know. It's a cool idea. I love it. I think personally I'm really into that and sounds like your kids had a lot of fun at Roots. So at the same time,
Definitely, they did.
you did bring up that hard point of it's like it's hard to do your own stuff if you're bringing your kid.
Yeah, yeah. If you love like I don't know. It's becomes part of your life as far as just something you're excited to see those people and those friends. And
Hmm.
sometimes that's the only place that you actually see them and get time to talk about ideas. So that was the difficult part. So that's why it's coming up with a compromise. I still want them to do it. I just want to do other stuff too. So
That's
figure it
cool.
out.
That's cool. All right. So we're hitting at about 55 minutes.
All right.
So is there anything you want to finish up with? Something you want to talk about? You want to plug something?
Um, no, I'm good.
Cool.
It's just yeah, just good to hang out.
Yeah, dude. I love just sitting and chatting with people, and that's one of the biggest things that I've missed this year is being able to like have these conversations with people, just sit around and talk about stuff, come up with cool ideas,
I
get
agree.
get help with my
Yeah,
problems.
it's what problems do you have, Bash? What are you working on?
Like I said, I was trying to I've got to build this C2 infrastructure, red team infrastructure rather, and it's
I thought you're dumping some firmware.
oh
No?
geez, so that's a cool problem. Um, so it it is really hard to break U-boot. Like it is really hard. Um,
Really?
for me personally, because I like the last problem that we were running into. Okay, so we talked about this earlier, but I'm gonna summarize it for everyone else. I was working with somebody else in the community on trying to break a little a little hardware device. And I only spent a day or two on it. It was, not too bad. He's spending a lot more on it. But the goal of what we were trying to do is trying to get root on this box, which runs Linux. And we were able to get to the point where we could read the U-boot logs. That's the init logs and everything as it's starting up. We got to the section
Hmm.
where it's saying that where you're supposed to hit, if you can hit this key, it will actually get you to the section where you basically have root to the whole thing. And we're so
Right.
close that we just can't get it to accept our UARTX RX communication. Like we can read what it sends to us, but until it passes a certain point in the U boot, it feels like it's not listening to us. And we're trying really hard to do non-destructive methods. So
So
I
you haven't actually removed any storage and
yeah,
tried to remount or done
right.
anything like that?
So we were able
Is
to
it all ARM? Is it?
it's armed, yes. And we were able to like put clamps on the flash chip that has the U-boot. So we're able to pull out the
Oh,
U-boot binary itself and start digging
oh,
through
interesting.
that in IDA and other programs to kind of figure that. And that's where from what I can tell, it's actually listening for those communications. If I can somehow get the chip to hit that button during the boot process, then we're golden. But
U-boot's open source, right?
yeah, it's totally so we have the source code too, but it's all about how it's compiled because it's got so many different compile flags, like it changes or adds or messes with different features.
Interesting.
So that's why pulling the binary was good because then we can look at how what features are actually enabled or disabled.
That makes sense.
But it's a lot easier to dig through something in IDA if you have the source code. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, I haven't ever touched it or like worked with it, but though that sounds awesome.
So
Sounds
that
super
that was
interesting.
really cool. I actually ought to follow up and see um if he was able to get anywhere with that. That was a really fun problem. But at the same time, I did personally like a week or two ago um, hit a little robot with its vulnerability, and I now have a robot that drives around my house every night after I go to bed that plays Star Wars music while it's driving. Super
So that's
stupid.
it's just the robot, the iRobot thing. It's not iRobot, it's some other brand.
Yeah,
I
it's
forget
one of
which
the
one you were talking
Chinese
about.
robots, but it runs Ubuntu, and I've been working with figuring out how to compile binaries for it and cross compile for this specific device, and I finally got it working. And so the next goal is to see if I can get some funny service running on it. But
Cool.
but I need ideas.
So I have like the like a normal iRobot Roomba,
Uh-huh.
and I was tying the home bridge specifically to that. but with the way that it works, it's different. So you basically have to get some scripts to extract like a like BLID and a robot, like a specific password with
Hmm.
how it's tied to it. And then it's just a queue management more for pushing the specific jobs and functions to it. So it's a little bit harder on those ones than I've been able to do so far. But no, that's cool.
Maybe we should sit
Unique
down together
Star Wars.
sometime and break it.
Yeah, except I like my robot. It cleans my house, man.
Well, I mean, break it in a good way. That's what we do, right?
Most of the time. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for chatting today.
Okay.
Um,
Sounds
talk to
good.
you later.
Okay. Later, man.